we're talking about all this kind of incestual stuff, all of this weird backing, secured loans. And Paolo went on with Deirdre, and she asked a lot of these questions directly to him. Let's start talking about some of the main points that stuck out the most to us.
Where do we want to start? I would be nervous going on CNBC, right? Like, people get nervous going on major network TV. Let's not read too much into his tone and focus more on like his words. Let's start at one specific place. I got a starting point. Is a year ago when Stu and Paolo went on. Stu said when Dee asked for the timeline that the audit would be coming in months and not years. When Paolo was recently on, he was asked follow-up questions about that audit. He said that they currently had a Big 12 auditor performing the audit, which is not a term that...
Everyone knows this. There are 4 big auditing firms. It is called the Big 4. It used to be the Big 5. It used to be the Big 8. There have been different moments in time where there were more of these auditors than now. But right now, it's 4 of them. It's Ernst & Young, it's KPMG, it's Deloitte and PricewaterhouseCoopers. So those are your big 4. Big 12 is not a fucking thing. It's not a real fucking thing. It's totally made up. And I'm mentioning this, and I'm so glad Deirdre called this out because he's been repeating it all over the place. He's saying we've got a Big 12 auditor. We've got a top 12 auditor. There isn't such a thing. There's no such thing. Stop saying that.
I'm sure there is some list that this auditor was ranked number 12 on, and that's what they're
Who
referring
fucking
to.
cares?
I don't know where the list is, but it probably exists. So yeah, they said they hired a Big 12 auditor, which, first of all, let's pause for a second. Even among the Big 4 auditors, there is a wide range of quality and diligence among their franchises, right? Like the U.S. domiciled ones, which still have quite a few ethical and other problems.
This is it.
Their
So
franchises...
So important because she asked if they reached out to the Big 4, and his response wasn't, yes, we did. His response was, yes, in certain jurisdictions.
Yes. Yeah, and so even across the different jurisdictions, you'll see a wide variance in the diligence and quality of the audit. The China hustle, which we've talked about before, kind of gets into how the Big 4's Chinese franchises were auditing numbers that were completely untethered from reality. Paolo says that they discussed with the Big 4, but did not ever engage with the Big 4. The Big 4 are not auditing Tether in any jurisdiction.
They're scared. They're scared of auditing cryptocurrencies. Yeah. That was the claim. They're scared of auditing cryptocurrency companies. Not they're scared of auditing Tether in particular, which is probably a lot closer to the truth. But they're scared of auditing cryptocurrencies in general, which again, Deirdre paused on and said, sorry, what did you say? They're scared? And he was like, yeah.
I think it's quite plausible
okay,
that many auditors were afraid of the reputation risk of working for Tether, and especially of signing off on their current books. But that's another important thing to remember is they're saying top 12, which is already not a thing. We're already 8 below what people actually consider the top. And depending on what jurisdiction that top 12 is operating in, there can still be a massive variation even for that own auditor among their different franchises, right? Like if, for example, their London office is generally considered pretty passable, their, for example, Cayman Islands office might not have that same reputation, hypothetically. Just saying. Not that I'm suggesting that, but they have a top 12 auditor, but they can't tell us who it is, because if they tell us, Cass and I are going to call them and annoy the auditor, and then the auditor will stop working for Tether.
Which, by the way, I want to make this clear, and I don't know, maybe Bennett, you have a different experience. I never have called any of Tether's auditors. Never in my life. I've never planned. I
imagine other journalists have, as part of writing articles back when Friedman was supposedly auditing them. I imagine journalists have called the auditor to ask, are you performing an audit?
And I imagine that's a normal thing that auditors have to deal with, is journalists or other people calling and asking about a company. It seems like a pretty normal part of the job.
I imagine most auditing firms are not going to tell people a bunch of details over the phone. The most they'll probably do, if it's already public knowledge, is go, yes, we can confirm so-and-so is one of our clients, but we don't discuss ongoing engagements beyond that, right? It's not like the auditors are going to suddenly start going over the phone to a journalist. Oh, yes, we're auditing them. They have this much of this security, this much of this security.
Yes, here's the audit.
So,
it's right in front
yeah,
of me.
Tether is claiming that the reason they can't tell us who's doing the audit is because the auditor will no longer do it if people know who's doing it. Which is like, this is Bitfinex and Tether's banking all over again. We can't tell you where we bank because if we tell you where we bank, the bank accounts will get shut down.
Right, and I didn't let you get to the last part of this, which is funny to me. That after saying, they're getting audited, they're ready, they're all lined up, and it's ready to get done now. This audit from a Big 12 auditor. What's the?
Which means they must know who the auditor is, right? Like if they're describing them as Big 12, they must exist and be top 12 on a list somewhere. So it has to exist as an engagement, or they're just flat out lying.
Right. So, okay, fine. They've engaged with this auditor, but a year ago they said it was a few months away. And this time, when asked if this would be a few months away, years, Paolo said, I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. It's the blind leading the blind over there at Tether. I don't know how you go on national television, international television, and you're not prepared to answer pretty simple questions like that, Well,
and what keeps your token tethered to the dollar?
and that's so. We'll move on from the interview because I think we touched on kind of the most. Is there another part that you think particularly sticks out to you before we move on?
No, not particularly. The one part that I do want to draw attention to is that Deirdre asked Paolo if their asset management was handled by an external firm that managed their reserves for them, and Paolo said no. It was entirely internal. So that means our friend Silvio Di Stefano, whose name Tether is suing to keep a secret, must be managing an incredible team of traders who pull off miraculous stunts on a daily basis.